Hey guys, and welcome! In one of my last videos I gave you a complete overview of all barrel attachments Battlefield 2042 has to offer and explained how they work and what you should be aware of. And today I want to do the same with all underbarrel attachments and also get a bit more into depth on how they work and what kind of effects and benefits they have to your weapons and gunplay. The currently available underbarrel attachments in 2042 are 4 different grips, 3 lasers, 1 flashlight, 1 bipod with several variations, 4 underbarrel grenade launchers and the Masterkey. According to the descriptions, they either affect your weapon's accuracy, recoil or aim down sight speed, but as usual there are some more advantages or disadvantages you should know about. But now let's get right into it and start with the grips. The grips in Battlefield 2042 are parted into normal and light grips, and they all affect your weapon's accuracy in different ways. The 2 available light grips are the Rattlesnake and the BCG, and the Rattlesnake will give you an advantage in hipfire accuracy but lowers your aim down sights accuracy, while for the BCG it's the other way around. And as normal grips you can equip the Cobra or LWG, and these have an effect on your weapon's accuracy while moving or while static. So similar to the barrel attachments, grips come in pairs that always affect 2 different stats. But what is accuracy? Well, accuracy can be defined as the percentage of your bullets that hit the target when you are on spot. With a high accuracy, more of your bullets will hit the target. With a low accuracy, there is a higher chance of bullets missing the target even if your aim is precise. This means that with the Rattlesnake grip, more of your bullets will hit when firing from the hip, but there is a higher chance to miss when you aim down sights. For the BCG it's the other way around, and you will hit more bullets when aiming down sights, but less when only firing from the hip. What's important to know here though is that it doesn't matter if you are moving while firing or if you're static. It only depends on the way you hold your weapon. This changes however with the Cobra and LWG grip, because with the Cobra more of your bullets hit the target when you are static while less when moving. And for the LWG it's again the other way around, and you will have a higher chance to hit your target when you strafe or move in any other way while firing, and a higher chance to miss your target when you are static and not moving at all. But then again, for these 2 grips it doesn't matter if you aim down sights or if you fire from the hip, only your movement matters. As for the recoil, none of the grips had any positive or negative effect on it. It might look like there is a minimal reduction in vertical recoil for the Rattlesnake and the BCG, but this is just a normal variation in the recoil pattern. I've tried it a few more times with all grips and the patterns had different variations every time. So it's really important to monitor your playstyle with each weapon to find the best grip for it. With sniper rifles, for example, you will mostly aim down sights and not fire from the hip, but you might want to strafe a little and not be static all the time, which means the BCG Light might be the best attachment for you. With SMGs on the other hand, you will mostly fire from the hip while moving, so either the Rattlesnake or LWG is beneficial here. Maybe take a screenshot of this overview so you can have a look at it whenever you're going to do a new weapon setup. But like I mentioned before, grips are not the only underbarrel attachments you have access to, and also not the only ones that give you a benefit in close combat and hipfire accuracy. So let's have a look at the 3 available laser sights now, the LS1, MGL and STNR. Not all of them are available for all weapons though, cause mostly you will have the LS1 and either the MGL or the STNR. The only weapon where all 3 laser sights can be equipped is the RM68. However, all of them affect your weapon's hipfire accuracy in different ways, and for the MGL and STNR, the description says that they even give you a better recoil control. But let's roll this out one by one and see if this is true. So the MGL and STNR laser give you a better hipfire accuracy while moving, affect your weapon's recoil in a positive way, but are detectable for the enemies. The LS1 on the other hand gives you a benefit in hipfire accuracy as well, but here it doesn't matter if you're moving or not. In addition, it doesn't mention any benefit in recoil control, and it's also detectable. And when looking at the stats, it seems like this is the worst of the 3 laser sights. But like I always say, be careful with these descriptions and stats. Because the first point that doesn't seem to be correct is that the MGL and STNR have an effect on the recoil. When testing it with the RM68 and in comparison to the factory mount, I did not find any noticeable advantage in recoil control, no matter if the laser sight was activated or not. All of the recoil patterns were similar. I've also tried this with other weapons like the M5A3, since the RM68 is still relatively new and might have a bug here, but no, same results, no difference in recoil at all compared to the factory mounts. I even tried it in hipfire because I thought it might only affect this type of shooting, but still no other result. There is no recoil reduction with any of the laser sights, even though it's mentioned in the description. I forwarded this to the developers, of course, so they can have a look at it, and there might be changes to either the description or the recoil for these attachments coming in the future. But for now, don't trust the description. In addition, I also tested the brightness of all three lasers, and this was actually more by accident, but with some interesting results, because the green MGL and the blue STNR laser were much brighter than the red LS1, and with this also easier to detect by the enemy. In dark environments you will see all of them, of course, but in bright daylight the LS1 is barely visible, while the STNR and MGL are clearly noticeable. In addition, the LS1 also has a small blinding effect when pointing it directly at a soldier's face, while the other two do not have an effect at all. So when you play these laser sights, it's important to know that you can also turn them off in case you want to hide behind cover or in a corner and you don't want to get seen by enemies. To do this, just toggle X on PC or hold D-pad down on controller. You can also see if your laser sight is turned on or off with a small indicator in the bottom right corner of your HUD. Only be aware that this will also deactivate the benefit in hipfire accuracy the laser gives you. For the accuracy itself, it's hard to measure, but just from testing it on the shooting range, I found that the difference between MGL and STNR is not really noticeable. The difference between moving and static, however, is definitely noticeable when shooting with these two lasers, so they really only have a benefit when you're moving. Surprisingly, the LS1 seems to be the best laser sight despite its stats, because it showed the most consistent accuracy of all three when moving and when static, and I barely noticed any loss in accuracy when moving compared to MGL and STNR. So here's my little overview again to make it easier for you to follow what I've just explained, and I think it looks like the LS1 laser is the best choice, simply because of its more consistent behavior across all types of movement and because it's not as easy to detect as the other ones. In addition, it has a small blinding effect. If you're looking for maximum blinding effect though, and you want to draw a light on enemies hiding in dark corners, the flashlight might also be an attachment worth trying. Unfortunately, it has no benefit in accuracy or recoil control and basically behaves in the same way the factory mount does, but it can be helpful to increase enemy visibility in dark environments, and also as a distraction in gunfights or to cover your head when peeking over an obstacle. Similar to the laser sight, you can turn the light on and off by toggling X on PC or when holding D-pad down on controller, and there's again the little icon in the HUD that shows if the light is active. Not one of my favorite attachments, but still very useful for specific situations. An underbarrel attachment that might be more interesting on the other hand is the Bipod, because this has a massive effect on your weapon's recoil and on the range at which you can fire your bullets more accurately. As usual, I've tested it in several situations that you might encounter during your playtime as well. And first of all, there's no loss in recoil control when you have the Bipod equipped but not deployed. I think this is a question some of you had. So the recoil is basically the same as for the factory mount. This changes of course with the Bipod deployed, because then it will reduce your weapon's overall recoil by about 50%. It can be deployed on the ground when prone or on almost all kinds of obstacles when crouched or when standing, and you can easily see in the crosshair if the Bipod is deployed successfully, because then the lines of the crosshair will move closer to its middle dot, which indicates the lower recoil and easier handling. Similar to the former underbarrel attachments, you can also activate and deactivate it with X on PC or by holding D-pad down on controller, and there's also the same icon again in the bottom right of your HUD that makes it easier to identify if the Bipod is unfolded or not, because sometimes this is hard to see with your soldier's hands in front of it. The factory bipods of PKP, DXR and NTW work in the same way as the ADR bipod, but it's only mentioned in the description of the NTW, not for the other two weapons, maybe because there's no factory mount as a reference for them. And then there is the Masterkey, and even though this attachment doesn't have any benefit to your accuracy or recoil control, it shouldn't be underestimated. The Masterkey is basically a shotgun with a 6-shot drum and 18 shots in total, and you need to activate it similar to the bipod with X on PC or D-pad down on console, and then just fire it from the hip. It has a pretty low spread, a fire rate somewhere between the MCS 880 and 12M auto, and up to 15 meters, all enemies are one shot to the body. Unfortunately, it also affects your weapon's overall handling, which means you'll have a bit slower aim down sight speed and slightly higher recoil, but it can be a great addition to the setup of specific weapons like sniper rifles to give you some more firepower in close combat. And as a last type of underbarrel attachments, there is the Underbarrel Grenade Launchers, and these are available as HE with normal frag grenades, as AP with armor-piercing grenades that explode on impact, as Incendiary that burn for an amount of time and deal area damage, and as Smoke, with which you can cover your flanks, revive, or objectives, or whatever needs to be covered. To activate them, toggle X on PC or hold D-pad down on console, just like for some of the other underbarrel attachments. And there is again this little icon in the HUD showing if the attachment is active or not. But since the crosshair changes as well, I think this should be easy to tell anyhow. With each of the launchers, you have 3 shots in total before you need to resupply, and if you have several of them, you have 3 shots with every one of them, so they don't have a shared ammo pool. Similar to the Masterkey, the underbarrel launchers also affect your general weapon handling, which means your aim down sight speed is a bit slower and your recoil is a little bit more. But it's also a great way to have some additional explosives with you, because both the HE and AP grenades kill infantry with 1 direct hit. Incendiaries deal about 80 damage on direct hit, but a lot more area damage and damage over time, and even the smoke grenades deal damage on direct hit, even though it's only between 40 and 50. In addition, HE and AP grenades also deal damage to vehicles. For example, to this MAV, the HE does 10 damage to front or side, and the AP deals 90 to rear, 13 to the side, and 11 to the front. Incendiary does not deal any damage to vehicles at all in 2042, so that's nothing new here. And all of these grenades are intercepted by Iris Shootdown Sentinel and the APS upgrade for vehicles, of course. And that's it for today. I hope this video gave you some good insight on the available underbarrel attachments of Battlefield 2042 and you better understand what they all actually do now. And if that's the case and you enjoyed the video, be sure to drop a like or a comment below and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Until then, thanks for watching, I'm the Catwoman and you are awesome.